So quick introduction for everyone. The facility strategic plan was approved by our Board of Trustees in 2020, which provides a framework for actionable strategy to augment PCC's existing campus facilities. That's not only on Colorado, but also Foothill, and now we'll have a new imagined Rosemead campus. To create the best possible learning environment to enrich our students' academic, personal, and professional lives. We all know as we think through education and particularly higher education, specifically that that landscape has been evolving as it relates to just modality of instruction, how we're delivering services to our students since the pandemic. And so it's really important and incumbent on us to do ongoing reflection related to PCC strategic planning documents. This is one of them. This plan sits under the larger educational strategic plan that the college is also working on making some updates. So best practices and industry standards encourage institutions to make sure that they're doing that every 3 to 5 years. So the facility strategic plan, thinking about that, that's actually a 10 to 15 year plan study, but things change, and so we want to regularly check in. So we're at 2020 approval, we're at 2024 now, where we have a moment to kind of take a step back and get some idea or some sense of if things have changed or if college priorities have changed, that we have an opportunity to have some real intentional conversation about that. But what we make sure that we also take into account is there have been certainly enrollment shifts as we're thinking through. We've done a really great job at sort of recouping those, but we wanted to really better understand what those shifts look like for us and what that means for our facilities. If you're not aware, PCC used to lease lots 10 and 11 from Caltech, and so we no longer own those leases anymore. So we have had, since the approved plan, a loss of parking lots. We always consistently have new building reports that come out from any one of our buildings on site where we're doing work in. New and growing programs. So since the pandemic, there have been new CTE programs, new credit and non-credit programs that are expanding, that we're wanting to make sure that we are intentionally sort of directionally taking into account, as well as sort of our outreach opportunities and the way that we serve students. And then since the pandemic, we've had our voters, our residents in Pasadena actually approve a general obligation bond in the amount of $565 billion to kind of help the college with its facilities needs. So all of those things have changed since the approved plan in 2020. I always like to try to set some context, because often it's very easy for us to think that Pasadena City College is its own little microcosm, but it exists in this larger world of higher education, and so it's always important to sort of frame the shifts and changes and even challenges that we're facing. Others in the community, both at 2-year and 4-year institutions, are also experiencing these shifts. And so we always try to ground and benchmark our information into some data. And so this is some survey data that Inside Higher Education shared out with undergraduate students at both 2-year and 4-year institutions. And these are just a couple of bullet points that I pulled out of that. And so there's a direct quote: "There's more than ample evidence that environment is directly correlated to learning outcomes." And so thinking about how we feel and exist in facilities actually can support or hinder a student's educational outcomes and growth. And so we're wanting to be mindful as we're sort of reimagining where we want to be. 3 out of 10 students agree that poor maintenance and cleaning or general building conditions on campus impact their ability to focus and learn, at least sometimes. So we're wanting to, again, be really intentional and thoughtful about what that looks like. And then a direct quote: a student or professor wants to spend most of their time in a dilapidated building. And so, again, I think that speaks to that first point, which is there's more than ample evidence that environment is directly correlated with learning outcomes. And so as we're mindful of how our students experience this place, I think it's important we bring those pieces into the strategic planning process. I will say, let me just show this so you guys can see. We also have the form that you all have in paper form. You're also welcome to scan the QR code and we can collect the data that way. So I'll give you a moment to kind of do that and then share that the goal and intention of this process and this refresher update is not to rewrite the facility strategic plan. We have an approved strategic facilities plan. Our intention is really to think through what are the areas that are missing, what didn't get as much focus as we wanted to get focus. An example of that we'll talk a little bit later too is around our parking and our sustainability initiatives. While that's expressed in the facility strategic plan, there aren't any specific projects related to those. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what we're thinking about the refresh plan including in the future, because we want to make sure that that's intentionally stated. But there are other pieces that we may have not had some focus on in 2020 that we want to bring some focus and attention to in this point. So it's not a redo of the facility strategic plan. It is an amendment process in terms of carrying out the core pieces that tie to the educational strategic plan, but also making adjustments where we actually think we need to do so. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so I'm going to give 30 more seconds of the QR code, and I have it later, we'll show it again. But you're also welcome to, again, use the printed copy. We'll do some discussion point at the end. And then Lizette, who is graciously walking around the room, everyone saying, hi, Lizette. Please make sure that she receives these cards, and we'll try to field as many questions as possible during the forum.
There are 25 people on the YouTube, but it's not
Thank you.
We already contact Alex, we already contact Communications.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I have my colleagues from HCA here, so I'm going to invite Joe and Stacy to come up. We're going to kind of tag team. We have some pieces where Joe will take some, Stacy will take some, I'll pop back in. But HCA has been partners with the institution since early 2016 when we embarked on the original planning process for the facility strategic plan that was approved in 2020. So the really awesome part about this and wonderful piece is that our partners know this campus very well. Oftentimes I find and learn things from them, like, what building is that in? And they're like, oh, it's this building. So they're very familiar with Pasadena City College. They continue to support. We consider them an extension of the PCC family as they help assist through our planning documents. So I'm going to invite Joe up to talk a little bit about the process that they're doing to kind of help us really amend the existing plan.
Hey everyone, my name is Joe. I'm an architect with HCA. We're an architecture and planning firm. Our office in Southern California is in Santa Monica, so we're fairly local to the PCC campus. And with me today is Stacy Kwok. She's a colleague, also an architect, working with HCA. So I'm going to give an overview on the process and what we're doing as part of this what we call FMP, Facilities Master Plan. So in brief, we generally start with doing research, and that involves the college and understanding what the objectives and the vision is for the update. We also include collection of enrollment data, utilization data. We collect all that information. And then we go through an analysis phase where we start crunching numbers and looking what does all the data mean overall. We combine it together and then produce an update. So it is a refresh on the original facilities master plan. And then to talk a little more specifically, so this is the plan that, excuse me, was approved in 2020, which set out at that time the intent for improving facilities on the campus. This plan includes 6 new buildings. The Student Services Building to replace the existing, Academic Building to replace the aging W Building, the Serafian Building, which is currently under construction now, you probably have all seen that over on the east side of the campus, a new cafe facility out in Galloway Plaza, a new science building that's just east of Serafian, intended to work in tandem with Serafian to take to supplement those classes and courses there. And then a new facility down in the southeast portion of the campus, really the relocation of the swimming pool that's central on the campus now to that southeast corner on the site. The plan also prescribes some renovation projects, major renovations to the R building and C building. And then it also included some expansion of parking on the campus. And this was prior to the loss of lots 10 and 11. There's other site improvements that the plan suggests, some greening on the 4 corners of the campus just to present it a little nicer to the community and offer some community spaces. So that was the plan that was approved in 2020. And now, what we're looking for scope, there's been some changes that are proposed. Still retaining some of those new buildings, but looking to retain the swimming pool at its current location. And then the academic building that was adjacent to that area would adjust. Looking for new opportunities for parking in response to the loss of lots 10 and 11. Reimagining the southeast corner, instead of the swimming pool be there, a multi-purpose type of facility there. And then some other renovation projects, namely to buildings D and E. Our building is also is undergoing a reevaluation whether it is renovated as originally planned or perhaps replaced in its current location. Okay. So those are kind of the new scope. Yeah.
Just to add on to what Joe has shared, some of the pieces, so thank you for that, around particularly the pool and location. So in thinking through the general obligation bond and the funds that we have available for project-related activities, it's important that we're also trying to make decisions around where's the best put those dollars to work. And so if it's more expensive to move to that southeast corner of the campus at Bonnie and Del Mar, that we want to take some intentional really looking around that, whether that makes sense to spend the money on doing that initiative or spending money to do other sort of project priorities on campus. That's a component of evaluating those pieces. Another additional piece that isn't on this map is also to sort of figure out sort of that bungalow area in the annex area and sort of what footprint goes there. I think it's important that we're making a commitment to not have portable classrooms on campus. I know we've had some portable classrooms not only on Colorado but also Foothill for longer than what we're wanting, and so to make some real intentional activity around then what those footprints look like. Since Annex is near the CA building, GM building, sort of in that footprint, that actually falls, if you look to the facility strategic plan in an area that supports sort of the arts area. And so we're wanting to have some real conversation with our kinesiology department about what things are working with the GM building, what things need some adjustment, so that may be a potential footprint for us to do some visioning around. So we have some conversations planned with them. I think May 2nd, so soon on Thursday. But just, we're entertaining a lot of options. There's also thought process around what to do with culinary and hospitality. Again, those are areas that were not expressed and had some intentional activity around, and so we're wanting to make sure that we're supporting those programs, as well as new programs that are growing that Joe is going to get into and share some idea about where, particularly around CTE programming, that we can potentially do some expansion and use our areas more wisely, given that we're landlocked. So the reality is we only have so much square footage on campus to do things. And so it's important that we're trying to always take a step back and look about the best used areas, particularly areas that also might be underutilized, that we can do other things. The boiler house becomes, which is a building near our facilities areas, an utilized area, so we have some thoughts around that. But just, we're just really open to kind of hearing, from the community what other aspects are missing, so that as we're thinking through this project, we can sort of make those new expressions and get some recommendations out to the community, again, get some feedback, and then go with some recommendations to our Board of Trustees.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about enrollment, both existing and projected. I'll have a series of charts here to share with you. So the chart on the left, the green bars, show the full-time equivalent student enrollment figures going back to 2018, which is the far left. And we could see how the enrollment has dipped during the pandemic years, which is not unlike colleges across the entire country that took a dip in enrollment. But for this past period, so we always look at enrollment figures the following year. So we have the 2023 enrollment figures. So it has come back a little bit at this point. The chart on the right is expressing that in a line graph, and beyond the red dash vertical line is showing projected to the future for the next 10 years. So while enrollment is expected to increase in the future, it still is not expected to reach the levels that it was back in 2018. So this is an important part of our work in terms of the data and what we're analyzing. Okay. Now, to look a little closer at enrollment by divisions, we're seeing overall kind of either a steady or a dip through most divisions, with the exception of business and career technical education. That's where it seems that there's going to be growth projected over the next 10 years. Otherwise, some divisions, health sciences, performing arts, visual arts, are all more or less steady, while some of the other divisions take a little bit of a decline over the next 10 years. For the areas that we see growth, there are new programs being developed, mostly around health sciences, where we're seeing that new programs will help boost that growth. And you could see the list here of what those courses could be. We are also looking for existing programs to have growth in natural sciences, social sciences, and also language studies, and particularly language studies, ASL, Chinese Mandarin, and Spanish is where the growth is anticipated to take place. We also are looking in conjunction with this growth of reconfiguring space to accommodate it, meaning that existing classroom spaces may convert to lab spaces to help facilitate that growth. Okay. So key findings on utilization. We performed a utilization study about a year ago on the campus, looked at numbers, and then updated it more recently with the current data that we collected. And what we found is most classrooms on the campus are underutilized per the state standard. So the state's chancellor's office has certain requirements or targets, I should say, of how often or how much a classroom should be used. And classrooms are falling short of that target. So that means that classrooms are more empty during the day than they would like, the chancellor's office would like them to be. But conversely, class labs, so any lab spaces on the campus or most lab spaces are overutilized. So it seems like there's a balance there of overutilization of labs and underutilization of classrooms, that part of this update is going to try to correct that in terms of shifting of spaces overall. Okay. There's other instructional spaces that we have data on, which are unique types of spaces. Some examples are like the theater or performing arts spaces or athletic spaces. So those are also being taken into account as part of the update. Okay. And then in summary, these are some of the figures that are showing the underutilization. So for classrooms, and those are traditional classrooms on the campus, in the fall of 2019, the average utilization was 51%. Currently, and when I say currently, again, that's 2023, the most recent figures that we have, it has declined to 39%. And the target, just as a reference, the target utilization is 75%. So that's the chancellor's office target for utilization of classrooms. And as I mentioned, class labs, fall in 2019 and fall of 2023, essentially remain unchanged at 42%. The target utilization there is 39%, so that's where we get the indication that class labs are highly utilized on the campus. They're being used well. Okay. Those other courses that I mentioned, average utilizations have also increased since the 2019 time. So 2019, if I didn't mention, that was our target prior to the pandemic, right? So 2019, there's no definite target utilization there because there's different types of courses, but we're just seeing on campus those specialized spaces are being used very well. Stacy's going to talk about some new opportunities.
Hi, everyone. So as part of our refresh process, we're going to also take a look at the new Rosemead campus and exploring the possibility of it being business and technology focused. We're going to take a closer look at the tennis courts and evaluating what's the best use of that area. Also taking a look at Lancers Pass and exploring the possibility of it hosting the culinary and hospitality programs. And as mentioned previously, the goal is to retire all of the portable classrooms. And and all these different projects that we're proposing in the refresh, they're built in phases. And so as a result of new construction being built, any programs that's displaced as a result, we'll make sure that swing space is provided for those displaced programs. Other updates that we're looking into in regards to sustainability, we're looking at photovoltaic energy opportunities, location for solar panels on the campus, taking a closer look at expanding the EV charging stations, and also the possibility of stormwater management. In terms of transportation, as we're analyzing the enrollment figures, we're also taking a look how that changed in the demand for parking and making sure that we accommodate that as well, not only for the Colorado campus, but also at the CEC campus where we have some leased parking. So taking a closer look to see if possibly we can kind of offset the demand over there as well. And next steps, I'll pass it back to Candace.
All right, I'm going to show the feedback form too for those who are online. If you want to share, we have some questions that we're about to pose to the audience here that I'll try to monitor remotely and be able to ask some questions. But just really quick again, here's the forum feedback QR code. Some next steps that the college is working through is to host these forums. We actually have a forum that I'd like to encourage you all to attend today at 3 o'clock, which is really going to be focused on campus safety and how campus safety aspects of campus safety actually funnel into the larger strategic planning process. And so we are hosting that in Westerbeck today at 3 o'clock. So if you get an opportunity, join us there. There's going to be some benchmark information about kind of what's happening today, as well as some technology. Our Chief Technology Officer is going to be sharing out sort of his vision and ideas around some tech pieces that might also help to increase and focus on campus safety. So 3 o'clock today. For those watching online, or if you're not able to make it in person, feel free to do so then. We've got some some sort of discovery moments with which we've asked folks to fill in, and we'll sort of pick through. And so one is sort of the visioning pieces. There's really talk about help us better understand what areas are working currently on campus. You know, sort of we frame that around what are our favorite places on campus. We often hear about outdoor space. We often hear about certain areas, you know, based on what's happening in those. And so we wanted to get an opportunity in person and online to collect that information, as well as what are your least favorite places on campus, and then what's missing. Like, what have we not had some intention or thought process around, given sort of what's here today versus what we may want to see in the future. And so we'll take a few moments to do these pieces. We'll start with what are our favorite places. I know I've got a bunch of cards here, but if you want to raise your hand, we're happy to hear about your favorite places on campus. And then least favorite, and then what areas are missing. I'm also going to take the mic, and if some of y'all are not as comfortable saying those, I'll read off some of the things that are already started with what is your favorite place on campus.
Thank you. Could everybody hear? Okay, great. Yes, so I'm very, very partial towards a lot of the oldest buildings over here, which would include, of course, the 3 original buildings that were actually replacements of the original buildings before, the C, D, and buildings over there, along with the Jack Scott building, which is the C building, and the astronomy building, along with the L building. So all those buildings all together, they, to me, I feel like they show the history of Pasadena City College and are able to essentially show that throughout the years, from old architecture to new architecture, I think is very, very important. Yeah.
Just so, and then I'll go to Professor Hatch. So the way that we sort of think around buildings and sort of either historic or not would be based on, so there are some guidelines that the college uses related to that. So everybody is clear about the PCC is governed by the Division of State Architect. And so all of our guidelines come from the state and not the city of Pasadena. So
just so that we're clear about, there is a sort of separation around how we approach our building planning, what standards are put in place about things, because it's very different than commercial buildings or, folks or residential homes and things of that nature, which then inform which then buildings get considered sort of historical or not, which is generated by the owner, the people who own a particular property. One particular area of interest I think that the college is considering and may pursue is around our planetarium. So that building was actually dedicated. So there's some historical component there, and was dedicated. Einstein, thank you. I don't know why his name was evading me at that moment. So we're sort of considering and pursuing, sort of thinking through what that would look like moving forward. Our mirrored pools also are this really sort of very Pasadena kind of, a lot of folks who tour the the Rose Parade and come past Colorado. I mean, our mirror pools are also really iconic, and so really looking to find partnerships with people in the area who are interested in kind of preserving sort of the look and feel of those pieces that actually really fall under those guidelines. But I want to go to Professor Hatch.
I'm Nick. I teach in natural sciences. My favorite spaces on campus are Galloway Plaza, steps of the L building, the back hallway of the R building, the walk along the front of the L building, and oddly enough, the southwest entrance to the parking garage by Science Village. Those are my favorite places on campus because that's where I see my students, just by the by. That's where I see some of my on-campus collaborators, just by the by. When I walk by the front of the L building, that's when I used to see Cynthia Olivo. I would wave to her all the time as I walked into the L building. Now it's Miriam Altunji. When I walk by the front of the D building, actually, no, the E building, the D building, one of those buildings, I see Megan and Quay down there in their offices with the windows facing. The R building has the Lancer Pantry, which I see a lot of students there. The steps of the L building has the core students. Right? These are the spaces where I see people as I'm out and about walking around. One I forgot to mention, the side hallway, the GM building, right, where the athletic zone is. All good people, right, that I like to run into, and those are opportunities to run into them and see them. I don't care as much about some of the other things. It's the people in the community that I care about, and spaces that offer those opportunities are my favorite spaces.
And maybe introduce yourself as well.
Hi, my name is Denise Romero. I'm the program director and faculty for the dental assisting program. So I don't know, most people don't know, but all the dental programs are up in the R building on the 5th floor. So my favorite place is when you are up there, it's absolutely gorgeous and breathtaking. And we usually start at 6:30 a.m. So the sun's coming up over the mountains, and you can see all the way around, and it's absolutely beautiful and breathtaking, and it's just wonderful. And we see a lot of patients, so when patients come up there, they're just in awe. But that also is part of my least favorite too, because the building itself is, it's bad. Like, our patients can't get up the elevators. It's really dark. There's no windows. So it's inside very sad, but outside it's gorgeous.
So Denise has naturally gotten us into our second piece, which is least favorite. So visioning around what we can see. So we also hosted some sessions with associated students last Thursday, and a lot of conversation around outdoor space was really important for them. And then community, the areas around campus where they actually feel community and connected. So Professor Hatch mentioned core, or these other sorts of dance was another area that it wasn't necessarily about the building per se. I mean, yes, there is some tie to that, but it was more about, like, they want to find places where they feel safe and heard and seen on a regular basis. And so however we're reimagining community, I think is really, really important. So how about some of our least favorite places on campus? I'm going to peek at the cards. I saw a lot on the parking lots. Our least favorite places are parking lots. Our building, we'll go with Denise. There was our building. W building needs update. Our building, very outdated. Others, I just want to look up to. Parking lots. Somebody put the mirror pools. That's an odd one. I'd like to, maybe that was a rollover from favorite. The full statement is when the mirrors pools used to have water. Yes, we used to have water, and we're working on it. We've got a project to help with that. But used to sit there and study when I was a student. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Just wondering, why was the water taken out of?
I just want the folks online to be able to hear you as well.
No, I was just wondering, like, why was the water taken out of the mirror pools?
I am lucky to have my executive director of facilities here, who I'm going to ask him to just talk about some of the maintenance issues that we're having with the mirror pools.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Larrett. I'm the executive director of facilities. The mirror pools leak severely. So instead of filling them every 3 days, we made the executive decision to just let them go dry while we were working through the development and planning of the replacement. Okay?
All right, let's transition potentially to, I will get Professor started, you get this one, and then we'll transition to what would we like to see or have on PCC's campus. So first, Professor Stoddard, and then we'll transition.
Thank you, VP Jones. I actually don't need this because I could be heard, used to be able to be heard in the C building from the pool. My favorite place to be on this campus is on the Aquatic Center pool deck. Here's a picture of one of the sunrises. I got to see 5,000 of them over 24 years, and I miss that dearly. The pool was active from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. with FTS classrooms, co-curricular programs, extension programs, and community involvement. My favorite place that was there because I could see all of my colleagues and all of the college students walk in from either Lot 3 or Lot 4, and they'd walk by, and many of them would actually say hello. Maybe a good morning, maybe a good evening, or maybe a good night, because I was usually there most of that time. I got to be in the campus community, and unfortunately, one of my least favorite places to be is in a room like this when an architect is saying we should use that space for something better. Because in all due respect, that classroom space was being utilized and should be utilized, and I think it's cool in the middle of campus. And so does PCC, because every piece of virtual slides that I see that went out to win awards involved the Aquatic Center being as a part of our campus.
Thank you for that perspective. And we agree the sunsets, as with Denise's, are something that we want to certainly bring back. What would we like to have or see on, what's missing? Pool's missing for a second. What else is missing?
What's missing for me as a faculty member is to have more communal activities with my colleagues. For example, during Flex Day, we had pickleball. That was fun. We did it out here on the tennis courts. I used the swimming pool when it was fun.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, my name is Professor Michelson. My students are watching online somewhere. Hi, students, I'll be right there. I wanted to say that what I would like to see on campus, in addition to reusing buildings instead of demolishing because it's very environmentally unfriendly and expensive, and in my opinion, not needed. What I would also like to see would be more communal activity spaces for staff and faculty, as well as students, not just for athletes, because that's the GM building, but a place for yoga or Pilates or pickleball. We did pickleball over Flex Day. That was fun. A place to work out. I used the pool as a staff member. So I really would like some more movement, kind of non-credit or maybe aerobic, the kind of non-stress, non-competitive activities, fencing, tennis, table tennis, that kind of thing.
Thank you. I'll go here and then we'll pop over. What's missing, Professor Hatch?
You know what I'm going to say. I should give due credit first and say that Candace and Richard have been very supportive of what I'd like to see on campus, which is a space that acknowledges the origins of this campus, right? So we have a land acknowledgement that many of us recite dutifully before meetings, but I'd like to see that taken further. I'd like to see actual physical space on our campuses dedicated to that, teaching about that, opportunities to gather around and talk about that. And again, I do want to say that Richard and Candace are supportive of this idea. They know that I believe this, and we've had conversations about it, but I do want to put that on public record.
Thank you. Maybe one or two more folks. Let me get Andrea and then we'll pop. Because I want to get to some questions that we've received on cards too.
So my name is Dr. Andrea Bailey. I'm the lead psychologist at the mental health office on campus. And one of the things that I've noticed in the couple of years that I've been here is I was really delighted to hear that there's a lot of appreciation for the ways that the space isn't utilized in the way that it was built originally. I think we have a lot of different spaces on campus. I can think of the Pride Center. Our office is one of them too, where we're not really set up to be a therapy office, but we provide therapy anyway. So reimagining these older spaces that are not functioning or could function better for the needs of the students on campus or for the core students or all these different programs on campus that are kind of put into the spaces that we have because that's what's appropriate, but maybe isn't the best for those programs themselves.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie Rodriguez from the Life Sciences. And a couple things we'd like to see on campus is one, part of our program is moving into the new U building, and we're very excited about that. But there's a large part of us that will remain in the Science Village, so we're very excited to get a new home in a new building because the Science Village is, it's seen better days. It doesn't do so well in the weather, and things are starting to really fall apart, so we really are looking for that new home for our programs. And secondly, it'd be really great to have the campus used as a living lab. So if we have some more areas for sustainable landscaping that we can use for our biology courses, as well as I heard someone from architecture, environmental studies, all of those programs. And we also have a new plant sciences program. So we were definitely hoping to potentially use some campus spaces, you know, be rethinking landscaping in terms of can we plant some edible, you know, fruit trees? Can we do some like small scale urban farming? Some things like that. That would be a great example for our students to be, example for our community and spaces where our students can get hands-on experience. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And one more, what would we like to see on campus that it doesn't exist today? And then we'll go to questions that have been posed.
Thank you, Candace. My name is Tony, and I'm a student at Pasadena City College, but I'm also the president of the Environmental Sustainability Club. And recently, I just want to say that the school administration, along with all the governing bodies of the school, from the Academic Senate, from ASPCC, from Classified Senate, even the Facilities Committee, that we passed a resolution which promises the school to decarbonize its campus by 2030 and to electrify its vehicle fleet by 2030 as well. So what I want to see on campus is to see the school fulfill that promise by adding all the infrastructure that is necessary to fulfill that promise, to decarbonize the campus by 2030. To see solar panels on all the parking lots of PCC, and also more efficient energy as well as more efficient heating and cooling systems. So I want to see all that added to the campus by 2030, and I want not just to have that happen in a physical level, but also have PCC provide a vision which can inspire future colleges. Because the reason why we passed this resolution was also partly because we took inspiration from Santa Monica College. in their efforts to decarbonize as well. So not just to decarbonize and do our part in fighting the climate crisis, but also to give students another reason to be proud of PCC. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. All right, team, we're gonna field some questions that came in. We've got like 7 minutes, so I'm gonna try to do my best to go through as quickly as possible. And of course, we'll kind of sit and see if folks have questions. There was a question here up. Hold on, I gotta turn these back around. I've got them kind of grouped. Thanks. No, the questions are in the back. I gotta see them there. Stop messing with my cards, Joe. Now I can't find them. All right, there was a question specific around, oh, here we go. How would the facilities master plan refresh incorporate our identity as a HSI, Hispanic serving institution, specifically looking at the following things with a sense of belonging lens, community impact, ongoing feedback, incorporation of the feel for students first. And so just as a quick 30-second sort of response to this is I think it's really important that the college finds a way to reassert that identity in a way that shows up in our facilities. And so the intention around this process is maybe also to think through some conversation around murals and things like that on campus, coming up with some guidelines and some standards related to that, not only external murals, but also internal to some of our spaces that are culturally responsive, not only to, first, of course, to sort of acknowledge our HSI designation, but then a host of other minoritized groups sort of having those pieces and murals on campus. So that's going to be a conversation that we're going to think through and how we can better express that to the campus community. It says, are there plans to increase meeting space and availability around campus? So meeting space is it is like a hard thing to find, certainly for our staff and faculty, even our students and clubs on campus who need to utilize our space to host meetings. And so we'll be thoughtful about how we can kind of incorporate those pieces. We're always trying to first and foremost prioritize instructional activities, so just being really honest and open about that. But then trying to figure out how those spaces can also sort of shift when instruction is not having them so that they're flexible for the campus community. There's a question, does classroom utilization take course scheduling into account? So yes. And so there are going to be potentially some recommendations around those pieces that we kind of need to think. Again, the world has changed in terms of the way that we're delivering programs, both hybrid, in person, and then fully online. And so we're thinking through how that then impacts the way that things are scheduled. There's a question on, is there an update on the L building? So the original facilities master plan approved in 2020 has a designation for a brand new student services building in the existing footprint. And the intention of the college, we don't have any reason why not to do that. And so I think the services that are offered there have expanded and exceeded past sort of the original vision. For those that you don't know, that building actually was the original library. And so imagine an original library built in the 1960s, sort of it being able to surface and or manage the type of student activity that's happening in there today is just not appropriate. The folks who are in that building also feel that and feel that pain related to those pieces. And there are also a lot of student services areas that are not in that building that should be in that building. And so it's also those folks who are there today, but there is a need to sort of reclaim the student services options and things, offerings that are happening around campus in one central location. So while what is happening today is kind of happening, there is a desire to reimagine the way service is delivered and to sort of regroup those things. There's a question on why is sustainable landscape not on the plan? So I think that speaks to my very first point. In 2020, as the campus sort of thought through that plan, we had started with the acknowledgement that there are some focus areas that the college needs to pull back in, sustainability being one. Today you saw on our slides really focused initiatives, so under Richard's leadership just around PV, having greater electric sort of charging station and electric infrastructure to help power this campus has been really ushered with his leadership and direction on this campus. In addition to that, though, as it relates to landscaping, so his area has done a good job. These are steps, right? A really great job at electrifying all of their car fleets on campus, so we no longer have gas-powered cars. He's also done a really good job at really sort of thinking through all of the landscaping equipment, making sure that those are electrical as opposed to gas blowers and things of that nature. But there's more to do and more that we want to do. And so I think this gives us an opportunity to really express those ideas in written form. Again, the original facilities master plan has a little bit of a section around that, but not really any specific projects related to that. And so we're hoping to use the refresh process to deal with those pieces. Here's a question that says, will there be any building anything on lots 1, 3, 4, and 5 in the future? So those are parking lots. And so the challenge that we're dealing with today that we need to really evaluate and take a step back on is just what the parking needs are on this campus and to really reevaluate those pieces. And so there are some calculations and things that our partners at HGA are going to be doing for us. Because again, we have changed the way that folks are coming to campus. We have actually more students who are also using UPass and those things. And so all of those things weren't taken into consideration back then. So now parking is a little bit different. We're going to use those calculations. We don't anticipate that there's a need to get rid of a parking lot at this point. Actually, we're more concerned about there not being enough parking. So as we're sort of evaluating those numbers, we will definitely take into consideration, again, space that's underutilized on campus. That's our first focus, not areas that are utilized, but areas that are underutilized, and figure out if we could reimagine those spaces. And I'm going to answer one more and then hang out because I know we are at our 1 o'clock time. Some of these are really long, and it'll take me to read through them. Here's maybe Denise's question. What are the plans for the dental program? Currently in our building, temporary is in 1960s. Maybe it goes back to our building. So with our building, what we're doing is performing some calculations based on age of building, cost to renovate, and things to sort of make some recommendations. For dental, though, the expression has been that the dental program will move into the new building east of Serafian, that we could really reimagine some state-of-the-art facilities related to those pieces. So yes, yes. Understood. Your dean does a really good job advocating for that area, I promise. Please understand that is happening. And then I'll just end on 2 points so we can kind of close, and then we'll hang out and answer some questions. There was an expression Tony had shared around the college's decarbonization plans and things of that nature. So the guidelines that were approved by our board of trustees around 2030 in terms of electrifying the fleet as well as our facilities department and head and the college in general is very supportive of those activities. We're going to clearly always let the technology lead us related to what's available at those times. The positive, though, is that building standards and codes require those pieces actually nowadays. It's not a maybe, it's not a when or if you feel like it. Like the new building standard codes actually require us to go down that path, which I think we've shared with Tony and others often. And so we are regularly committed to meeting all the standards related to California green sort of expressions and commitments, and we'll continue to do so and build those into our construction plans. With that, we're going to let y'all get back to your days. Again, I want to thank everybody for their attendance today. We're going to do this same session again tomorrow at noon. We'll be in Westerbeck. And we have our campus safety focused one at 3 o'clock today. So if you're able to come by and hear a little bit about our approach to safety and facilities, we'd appreciate that. But if you have any other questions, feel free to see us after. Thank you all so much for your time today.